This is Get Real with Bob and Stacy, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacy Alcorn.
Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacy. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment, and our guest is Megan Driscoll, CEO of Evolve MKD. Welcome to the show, Megan.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me.
So, Megan's background is that she is self-made and has built a name for herself in the PR, marketing, social media industry in New York City, which seems like a highly competitive business to break into. But she's built it to a multi-million-dollar business with 18-plus regular employees. So we reached out to Megan. We wanted to pick her brain about building a business, competing in a difficult market, and we're going to get some secrets on PR and social media for small businesses. So first, Megan, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in PR?
Sure. So when I graduated from the University of Chicago, I actually thought I was going to go into finance. But it was right around when 2001 when the economy kind of took a dip. So my job search ended up being a little bit longer than I anticipated. And that ended up being a good thing because it really forced me to think about what I wanted to do and the kind of people I wanted to be around and really what my skill sets were. So I had a former internship boss who suggested public relations to me. I didn't even know what that field was. Did some research, went in for an interview for an internship at Edelman, and then actually ended up getting two job offers, one from Merrill Lynch and one from as an intern with Edelman. And to my parents' unhappiness, I actually turned down the full-time job at Merrill Lynch and went for the internship at Edelman and have really never looked back. And when the market crashed in 2008, I remember telling my dad, I was like, oh, who's the genius now that I went into PR and not financial services? But yeah, it's been a great field. And, I think one of the things I really like about it is that there's really no typical day. Right. Every day kind of new problems come up that we have to solve. And you get to meet a lot of different people and work with a lot of different great clients and businesses. And so I really feel like it's a field that suits my personality.
So as far as starting your business, like where did you get the financial capital to do it? A lot of people listening, many of them have a dream saying someday I want to start my own business, but they feel like they either have to go out and raise money, they don't know how to raise money, they don't know if they can bootstrap it. Like how did you figure out the whole financial piece for starting a business?
Well, I'm completely self-funded, and I think the way that I was able to do that is obviously kind of leading up to this, I made sure that I was smart about my personal finances, made sure my credit score was good, made sure I had savings, made sure I had already kind of started to cut back on some lifestyle things that weren't really totally necessary, even if they were fun. And then I also took a look when I decided to kind of take the plunge and open up for business. I took a look at really what was the overhead that was absolutely mandatory. And I was really strategic in taking on overhead kind of a little bit at a time. So for instance, like I didn't rent office space until it became absolutely necessary and it was going to hurt the business if we didn't have an office. So for the first year and a half of my business, I actually worked out of my apartment. We got a WeWork space. And so really we kind of kept the costs beyond the people costs, which is very important because obviously people is what I'm selling. We kept the overhead costs as low as we possibly could. And actually that's something we continue to do today.
Wow, that's awesome. So what has been the biggest challenge in your business since opening, and how did you overcome that challenge?
So the biggest challenge, and what continues to be an ongoing challenge, and I think this is kind of the same for all small businesses, no matter what industry you're in, is the access to credit and banking. A lot of banks didn't even, really want to look at me until I'd been open for 2 years. And unfortunately, the first 2 years is actually when you need the most credit and the most flexibility. So that was a huge challenge. I think what I found was, again, kind of to go back to your first question, was that I had built up at least like a solid personal credit score. My personal finances were in great shape. So at least that made the banks a little bit more willing, not much, but a little bit more willing to work with me. And then now as I've been in business longer, we're entering year 3, I'm constantly kind of talking to new banks and seeing like who can give me a better deal, who can give me a bigger line of credit. And I think that's something that I've learned that I have to kind of keep active in to make sure I'm getting the most that I can. But that banking and credit access is a huge challenge.
Yes, I found that in my own business. The banks are willing to give you money when you definitely don't need it anymore.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Correct. And that's the most frustrating thing. I remember when we went to actually rent the office space, what was the most surprising to me is, we had become a profitable business about 6-7 months into just being open. And even renting office space, even though my balance sheet looked fantastic, because I didn't have funding, offices didn't want to rent to me.
Right.
They would rather go with businesses that had a huge, a lot of funding, but were not profitable. And that was like mind-blowing to me.
Yes. That's so interesting. So tell us about your Manhattan office. I hear you have a beautiful office. You hired an unbelievable designer. Tell us about your office.
Yeah, so we're located in Chelsea. We have just under 5,000 square feet. And again, it was kind of a challenge finding an office. It was actually the fourth office we put an offer in on to lease. And funny story, especially this was in 2015 in New York City. One of the questions I got when we were negotiating the lease was if my husband was willing to guarantee part of it.
Wow.
Even though my husband does not own any part of the business.
Oh, my God. That makes me cringe.
So that was very interesting because it made me cringe, too.
Yeah.
And actually, my attorney asked the landlord's attorney if I was a man, if he would be asking the same question about my wife. And when the answer was no, that was taken off the table. But but we're very happy. We're in our office now. It is beautiful. We have a lot of chandeliers.
Nice.
And, what I wanted to do when we were decorating this was obviously have a place where everyone felt comfortable. Not go, again, back to the overhead, not go crazy, but be strategic about what we spent money on, because we do, PR and social media is it's a lot of work. So I wanted people, if you're going to be spending most of your time in the office, that I wanted to be a beautiful, comfortable space for everyone that works for me.
Wow, that's awesome. So I'm curious, just in running your business, are you the best salesperson? Like, are you the one out there trying to get new accounts regularly?
Yeah, so I focus a lot on new business, but I have a wonderful senior team that also supports me because obviously, I'm not good at everything. So what I really tried to do is put together a team that's very complementary. So really, depending on what kind of client we're going after, I look at kind of my senior team and decide like who's going to kind of help me with that. We're doing a big push right now in the beauty space to get more clients, and I would say that that's really kind of a team-wide effort. Obviously, I have an SVP who specializes in digital, a VP who does a lot of work with physicians, and another SVP who is very entrenched in the beauty space. So really kind of it's a combination of the four of us.
Wow, that's interesting.
I'm curious, did you buy the space or did you end up leasing it?
No, we leased, because one of the other struggles that I had was when we opened in 2014, if you had told me in 2017 we'd be 18 people, I would have said you were crazy.
Right.
So that was also a challenge, was figuring out what size space I needed. And actually during the search, we originally were looking for a space that was 2,500 square feet. And then we just grew so fast that we had to kind of up to a higher square footage. So I think we're still a little bit too new to commit to a space like forever.
Yeah.
But that's definitely something like long-term my accountant and I have been discussing.
Yeah, and it's a tough balancing act, like you were saying, trying to figure out, keeping costs down versus not wanting your business to stop expanding because you have no space.
Exactly. That was exactly what my accountant said. He was like, you don't want to limit your growth by the size of your office. And I was like, no, I don't.
So you started out originally sharing your home that you lived in. Half of it was your Evolve headquarters. What was your first key hire? Who was your first key hire for the business?
So, it's interesting. When I first started, what I kind of wanted to do, the model I explored was having a few full-time employees, like only like 2 or 3, and then really working with kind of freelancers. Because obviously one of the challenges with a business that's client service based is your staffing kind of can go up or down. So I played a little bit with the model, but what I really found is that freelancers, it's tough because it's just, since it's not a full-time job, and this is obviously a generalized statement, but more often than not, I found there wasn't the same kind of commitment.
Right.
As there were with people who it was their full-time job. So I switched about 7 months into a more traditional model with full-time employees. So I would say probably at about that point, that was really when I started looking at kind of key senior hires. And that's really taken, I would say, that took about another year and a half to truly flesh out my senior team the way it needs to be.
Right.
And now we're at a good place with that. I mean, finding people is always the toughest part.
And as far as your customer base, for people listening to the show today, what does a customer look like? What size business are you working with?
Really it ranges. We have a few startups that we work on, and then that goes all the way up to a global pharmaceutical company that we work with. So I would say for us, it's really more about, I have three major considerations when I look at potential new clients. One, does the scope of what they're asking us to do, is it reasonable and realistic given, what kind of business they have and what assets they have? Two, does the budget match that ask? And three, are they like nice, good people? Because obviously an agency relationship is a little bit like getting married, I always say. So I never want to get divorced. And it's much easier if you start with reasonable people who, through the ups and downs of a partnership will kind of hang in there with you. So I would say more than kind of business size, those are the three things we look for.
Because it seems like in your business, I've worked with PR companies with my own firm. It always seems like you're as good as the last piece of media that you got for the person. And they're excited. Like the business is excited about it when you get it, but then you might not be able to sustain that every month.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's also kind of why I think one of the things that we always work on kind of communicating clearly is I think more than a straightforward publicity shop, we're truly more of a strategic partner. Because to your point, Stacey, publicity shops, you really are only as good as the last coverage you've gotten. And a lot of our clients, obviously coverage is a key part of what we do, but there are other portions such as like business planning, like how do we impact sales, what's your like long-term strategy for growth, what influencers are bringing to the picture, who can we introduce you to? So we really look at ourselves like as much more than a publicity offering. And I think the clients who have been with us, because I have a couple of clients who came with me from my last agency job that I've worked with for years. I think that's why clients kind of stick with me over the long term. It's more because it's more than just about the last placement.
It's very interesting that you have that whole social media piece to it, because I think a lot of older firms, like businesses, look at PR as getting coverage on the local news or the local newspaper, but the biggest PR that they can influence is their own social media outlets, and they forget about that.
That's totally correct. And I think, just to build on that, I think social media is also a customer service tool. So I think that's, one of the reasons why I also put as much of an effort into building that side of my business out, because the two really do go hand in hand. Because obviously the press, you're talking to directly consumers, you're influencing, the media coverage, but on the same token, you kind of want to pull that all the way through by talking directly to the consumer and make sure that they're hearing that same message from your channels as well. So I think it's actually, for most PR firms, I think it's a huge miss if they're not kind of building out that side of their business too.
So interesting. So we only have a few minutes left. I want to switch gears for a second. Since you're in the PR and social media world, do you have any advice for small business owners or salespeople on going out and building some press even for themselves?
Yep. So I would say, on the social media side of things, don't try to be on every channel. I would say focus, especially if you're just starting, you're doing it yourself. Doing kind of Facebook or Twitter or Instagram really takes a lot of time to do it well. I would say, pick one and do it really well before you expand into other things. And then from a PR perspective, I would definitely tell folks to, hire an expert. I mean, there are freelancers you can get that work with a variety of different budgets that can, help you. And then I would say also be realistic in your expectations, right? It's not going to happen overnight. PR is definitely a long-term investment that you as the client also have to put time and energy into it. It's not like you just hire a PR person and they run off and do all the work. It's definitely has to be a partnership.
Wow. Great stuff.
Makes a lot of sense.
So where is the best place for people? And do you work with clients all around the country? by the way?
We do. We actually work with clients globally as well. We did some events in Korea and Taiwan, so we're global. Mm-hmm.
That's excellent.
Okay, so best place for people to find you if they need help with PR or social media?
I would say they could go to our website, www.evolvemkd.com. We also have a Facebook page as well as an Instagram that we seem to get good reviews on. So I would say that, and then on the website there is an email for more information that you can email us at.
Wow, good stuff.
Great.
That is Megan Driscoll from Evolve MKD, helping people with, or businesses and people with PR and social media. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you both for having me.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.